Mike Volkan. And once every 2 weeks, I hop on a call and answer your questions live about opening a business, running a business, all that great stuff. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the questions that people have asked me in case there's no one that wants to ask me any questions live. It's okay just to listen in, but if you want, go ahead and ask me a question. I get all of my comments streamed into Restream here into one box. So Restream.io is a service that I use. Let me go ahead and pull up the questions while we wait for people to join. Give me a moment, please. Here we go. What I do is I aggregate all the questions. I get to my website at mikevolkan.com, and I read them during my open office hours. This just, number one, it helps everyone learn how to grow a business and sustain productivity and all that great stuff, but it also allows me to streamline my workday because a lot of people have questions for me, and if I can just do it in a public forum, it makes it that much easier. We got a lot of questions about freelancers this week because I did some blogs and a video for Upwork, and a lot of freelancers were listening. So a lot of freelancers went to my website to ask what I was doing these days for lead generation and for productivity. So I did get a lot of questions I'll ask regarding that. But in the meantime, just to reiterate, I'm a full-time freelancer / consultant. I'm a fractional CMO and an entrepreneur coach. I've built and sold several companies of my own. And for half an hour to 45 minutes every 2 weeks, I go live, ask me anything, streaming live on where are we at here? YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Let me go ahead and open up my chat here so I can see all of your questions. And if I'm going to read from my prepared questions to start, but if I see any questions live come in, I will go ahead and jump on those as soon as I'm done with the existing question that I'm reading. Okay. Okay, let's go to some of the prepared questions here. The first question is a freelancer from Los Angeles. Miriam wants to know what are the best strategies for setting consulting rates. She's a little bit all confused and wants to know if she should go high, what she thinks she should be at, or low to compete with her competitors. All right, well, the first thing you need to do is research your industry standards. Okay, that's step number one, is look at, for example, Upwork.com. Type in the search bar what you do and see who else comes up and what they're charging. Now, I wouldn't use that as a baseline, because if that happens, I wouldn't be charging what I charge, which currently is $300 an hour. Most fractional CMOs don't charge that much. So if I went on that, I'd be getting half of my rate. But anyway, you should at least know, so you have some talking points to compare your rate to others when you are speaking to a prospect. And then also consider your experience and your skills. If you have 3 years of experience, and a lot of those people on that Upwork results that I showed you have 20, then you shouldn't be matching their hourly rate unless you can provide some kind of niche value over and above what they're doing. I also want you to factor in overhead costs. So when you're a freelancer, you shouldn't be billing an hourly rate based on working 8 hours a day. Honestly, about at least 2 hours of it every day should be prospecting for new clients. So your hourly rate has to be baked into about 4 to 6 hours of what you would want on a daily basis. So you have to fill in 4 hours. You have to make your daily rate in a 4-hour chunk. So what I would do is, if you're coming off a salary job, take that salary job and divide it by 2,080. Your salary divided by 2,080, that gives you your hourly rate, because there's 2,080 hours in a year. Okay. So now what you have, let's say you're making $100,000. Let's do some quick math here. You're doing $100,000 a year for the sake of round numbers. Let's do 100,000. And then we're going to divide that by 2,080. That means your employer thinks that you're worth $48 an hour. Okay. Pretty low. Now, as a freelancer going off on your own, you're going to have your own expenses, your built-in overhead costs. You got to pay for your own healthcare. You got to have your own insurance, right? Your E&O insurance, other stuff. You have your own computer, your own equipment, your own this, your own that. So you want to build in enough in that hourly rate to cover that overhead. What I would like for you to do is take that $48 or whatever your number is after you divide it by 2,080, and I want you to double that. That means that is exactly what, if you can For example, $96 is double 48. If you can work for $96 an hour, 4 hours a day, you'd be making equivalent to what you're doing 8 hours a day at a salary job. Okay. Now you've got to build in about 30% overhead on top of that. So what you do is you take that number, which is 96, and you say times 1.30. That means you're at $125. So now if you have a salary job making $100,000 a year and you want to work 4 hours a day as a consultant and make the same amount of money as a salary job, your hourly rate should be $125 an hour. That's how that works. And if you're working right now $200,000 a year or $50,000 a year, just adjust my numbers with what you actually make. Okay, hope that helps. Okay, what other questions do we have here? Sarah from Austin, Texas wants to know what should I include in my freelance contracts? Really good question. Now, a lot of people that work on Upwork or Fiverr, they just assume that the contract that's built into those relationships are good. They are average. And a contract, though, a freelance contract should benefit you more than your client, right? It should protect you. And those default terms of services on Upwork, they protect you, but not in a way that is if you write your own contract. So number one, you should clearly, this is the one you should spend the most time on, outline your project scope and deliverables. That's a no-brainer. Make it very, very clear. Use ChatGPT to help really define that for you. Number two, your payment terms and schedules. Be conservative. You want to beat any scheduled projections that you have for deliverables. Number three, I want you to have clear deadlines and milestones for those deliverables. And number four, absolutely without a doubt, use ChatGPT for this. Have confidentiality and IP, intellectual protection clauses. Okay. And then lastly, have a termination condition. What makes you or your client or gives you and your client the ability to terminate the contract if one of the relationships goes sour within the confines of the contract? I've seen relationships go sour without clear termination clauses. And then what happens? Arbitration or lawsuit, right? So if you have project scopes and deliverables, if you have payment terms and schedules, if you have deadlines and milestones, confidentiality clauses, and then termination conditions, you should be fine. Okay. And actually, if you have the upgraded ChatGPT, look for a custom GPT, type in legal contract writer. There's a few that do very good. And just tell them what you are. Tell them I'm a freelancer. I want to have a scope of work, agreement written out, and it'll draw out all the contracts for you. I'm not saying that's a replacement for a high quality business attorney, but it'll get you 80% there. Okay. Okay. Noah from Seattle, Washington wants to know, how do I handle clients who consistently pay late? Yes. Those clients, every consultant, I don't care how good you are, how nice you are, you're going to get clients that pay late. It's just part of the process. Number one, establish clear payment terms up front. And I want you to send regular reminders before the due dates. I know a lot of freelancers that say, okay, well, your 30 days are up. Here's the invoices due today. That's not going to happen. People aren't going to jump on paying your invoices. Maybe 5% of people will do that. If your invoices say you have net 30, that means you have 30 days to pay it. Most of those clients will put in their calendar on the 29th day to pay on the 30th day. So they know. Okay. And Anne, I see your question. I'll get to you in a minute here. Another thing you could do for clients that want to pay late is, or clients that usually pay late is use freelance job platforms to pay. If you're not typically using sites like Upwork or something, then use them. They have good a way for the client to easily pay through credit card or ACH. And then offer free value. I'm sorry. I was thinking about that question, Anne. Consider ending the relationship if it happens again. So what happens is if a client pays late the first time, say, hey, I really appreciate you making the payment. I would appreciate even more, in so many words, that you pay on time next time. I have, in so many words, a family to feed and all that stuff. So you can use ChatGPT to word it properly, but you want to make them know that paying on time is very important. Okay. So I hope that answers your question about clients who consistently pay late. Anne just chimed in here from LinkedIn. She had a question. If you don't have savings or financing, how do you get rolling on a new venture? Oh, that's a very good question. Okay. From someone who has built and sold several companies of my own, I have never used investment capital to start a company. I've always used my own savings or none at all. So I'll go to that later. But investment capital can be had through F&F, what's called friends and family. Now, I personally don't like having my friends or family invest in my business ventures, but you can. What I would do is I would go to my Gmail and I would extract, there are tools you could do this, extract all the email addresses that you talked to within the last 90 days or 365 days, whatever. And I would categorize them as A, B, and C. A means I would definitely want to ask them if they'd be willing to invest. B means I would ask them, but not directly. Like I would say, I have this new business venture and I'm taking, investment capital, and I wouldn't directly pitch them as I would priority A. And then priority C means I wouldn't pitch them at all. So you can segment your personal contacts. If you want to do a friends and family round, just tell them what to expect. You can go look at a pitch deck online. There's lots of them, and just drop a quick pitch deck if you want to get friends and family. But if you have absolutely no savings or don't want to use savings and don't want to use capital, there are lots of free ways to get started building a venture. What is so great about consulting and freelancing is that this right here is your moneymaker, your brain, and that takes no money. You can sign up for a free account on Upwork to get started, get some clients, get some cash flow, and then once you have that cash flow, you're self-funding yourself. That's what I did. That's what I do to this day. I use my cash flow to fund my businesses. I have several personal businesses, and I'm an angel investor. I have some investments out there too. I use my investments from my freelancing and consulting to fund my ventures and my angel investments, and my real estate investments. It all comes from my freelancing. So use your brain, which is free. Use free sites like Upwork and to a lesser extent the Fivers, which I'm not really a fan of, but anything that will allow you to put your brain out there and for free, and that has inherent traffic, like Upwork has inherent traffic. You don't have to find it. They have it. You'd have to be found. Whether your venture is about freelancing or not, find something where you can give a value to your brain and get some cash flow to fund your own ventures. If you still don't want to do that, the other way is get yourself a free WordPress site. Hosting, you're going to have to host it. Hosting's pennies. It's a few dollars a month. And then throw something up there and then start doing social postings and get yourself an audience, drive traffic to that free website. Social postings are free. The website is free. The hosting is the only thing that's going to cost you a few bucks. And then I use 10web.io. It's like $10 a month. Certainly, hopefully you can afford $10 a month. Use 10web.io. Just get yourself an AI website really quick. And then you don't need any design work or any coding. It's just bare bones minimum until you have enough cash flow to upgrade. Okay? I hope that helps. Thanks for chiming in. Okay, wow. Let me take a quick break on that one. I see some other questions coming in, and please, I don't want to ignore these questions, but for the last 3 sessions that I've had, it's all been related to SaaS companies. And as much as I love SaaS companies, I need to take a break from SaaS companies right now. I will answer your questions via email, okay? Just type in your email address, or you know what? Don't type in your email address because that'll be on social media. So go to my website, mikevulcan.com, send me your email address, and then I will answer your questions about your SaaS companies, okay? I just don't want to do that now because I feel like the last 2 times that I've done open office hours, they've been jeopardized by SaaS answers and questions. Okay, let me scroll down here. Okay, I am a consultant this is Ethan from Boston. I am a consultant and have a very niche industry that I work in. I want to develop my own website. I've been previously just using Upwork profile. What are some effective elements I should put on my consulting website? Okay, number 1, right up at top should be a clear description of your services. That's no brainer, and a very effective tagline about what you do. Those are called value propositions. I want you to turn it into a tagline. If you go to my website, mikevulcan.com, you'll see I specialize in helping small businesses compete with larger businesses. So my tagline is turning competition into opportunity, because I love working for the underdogs. You need something like that. So number one, have a clear description of services. Right at the top, show your tagline and your value proposition. You should also put a little portfolio of past work. And then right underneath that, put client testimonials and case studies and all that great stuff. Try not to make the client testimonials written. People tend to not believe those. Make them video. Video testimonials are very impactful. Obviously, easy to find contact information. There should be a contact link in the nav bar or at the bottom somewhere. But if you do put it in the nav bar, make the nav bar sticky. That means when your user scrolls, that nav bar stays you. So they always have a way to contact you no matter where they're at in their website. And lastly, content is king still. Have a blog that showcases your expertise. And remember, as a freelancer, as a consultant, people hire you for your expertise. Your blog exudes your expertise. Your lead generation, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel magnets that you have on your website, whether it's an ebook or a blog or an infographic, whatever, that showcases your expertise. Those are very important. Don't let AI write those. You can let AI brainstorm with you, but you got to write those. Get yourself a different angle, different spin, be a little controversial. Make sure that you stand out as an expert on your website. Hope that helps, Ethan. Thank you for that question. Okay, we'll take a couple more questions here. Oh, here's a good one. Ava from Portland, just outside of Portland, Oregon, wants to know how she can upsell services to existing clients. She's had a couple long-term clients and she feels she's stuck in a silo doing the same services over and over. Okay, great question. So how do you upsell services to existing clients? Number one, I want you to identify additional needs just by looking at or talking to the person you regularly talk to. Regular communication. If you have weekly meetings, regular meetings with your client, ask them, what else do you need at the company? For the longest time, I had this person working for my company who was great with numbers. I hired her. She did my books. She did certain things, data analysis. And I found out, like, she just the regular conversation, she wasn't even asking for work, that she's like super creative. Like, that's her passion. She did some kind of like tie-dye, like creativity thing. She's an artist. So I hired her to do some graphic design work. And for years, I was using her for graphic design. She was phenomenal. So be sure to tell whoever you're working with, hey, I've got all these other skill sets. What else do you need? Right? And that's great because you already have an existing relationship with them and they like working with you. So why not try to get them to do other work with you? The other thing I want you to do for upselling your services to existing clients is I want you to offer bundled services or packages. So if you're offering one particular item, try to bundle another item with that with a little bit of an upcharge. You can also provide special services or discounts and incentives for them to add something else onto you. Maybe, for example, you're $100 an hour doing one type of work, but only $50 an hour doing another type of work. That's perfectly reasonable. And also the opportunity here is you have some kind of knowledge of their company and their workings. Maybe you've identified a struggle. Maybe, for example, the graphic designer keeps leaving or the owner of the company keeps complaining about the graphic designer. You can say, hey, listen, I like actually doing graphic design. Maybe I can step in and help here. Okay. So just keep your ears open for opportunities. So the bottom line here is be transparent about the benefits and communicate to the person you're talking to. Hey, I have these other skill sets you're not utilizing. And I've recognized this opportunity in the company to be able to, maybe my graphic design skills can help increase conversions 2%, or I've got an idea to help replace your current accountant with my skill sets here, whatever the case. So don't be afraid if they like you and you like them to offer those services as an upsell. Okay. Okay. Mason from Atlanta, Georgia, wants to know what tools can help me track my freelance finances. All right. Well, I use QuickBooks. Another popular one is FreshBooks for consultants and freelancers. I use time tracking apps. I use Clockify and Toggle. That helps track your time as a freelancer. Another tool that can help track your freelancer business, various expense management tools. I use a combination of things, but QuickBooks, I use Excel for certain things. Invoice generators. Boy, there's a lot of them. Again, I use QuickBooks and FreshBooks does that as well. And then budgeting spreadsheets. I would grab one online before trying to create one of your own because there's a lot of math that goes into budgeting spreadsheets. You could just go to Google and type in budgeting spreadsheet.xls. which means Excel, or .xlss or XLSX, and it will come up with various templates for you. Or just ask ChatGPT or Google Gemini to make you a budgeting spreadsheet. They do that as well now. Okay, let's go on to, I knew I wanted to talk about this one. Isabella, great question from Philadelphia. How do I handle scope creep with clients? Scope creep is real and it happens with everyone. Scope creep is when you have a working relationship with a client and they start asking you to do things outside of that contract, and you feel like you're doing them within the scope of, let's say you agreed on a $5,000 contract with a client. It's not hourly, it's a fixed rate. Scope creep comes in when they start putting in other stuff in that milestone or life of the contract that you're not getting paid for, but they're adding stuff to your plate. So handling scope creep is a big problem. And I talk about this a lot in my course, Freelancer Masterclass. Shameless plug, freelancermasterclass.com. First thing you got to do is be adamant about this. Define your project scope clearly in the contract. Exactly. And I get it. Things come in during the course of the project that weren't foreseen by anybody. But the more experienced you are, the more you can add those in. So as scope creep kind of happens, I want you to take that scope creep and build it into your next contract. So that kind of stuff won't happen again. But anyway, I want you to define your project scope in the contract very clearly. Next thing I want you to do is I want you to communicate changes and impacts immediately to your client. Tell them this is not part of the contract, but I'd be willing to do it. And here's the hourly rate. Your contract should have an hourly rate outside and above what your project is consisting of. All right. So you should say in your contract, anything outside this contract is billed at $100 an hour or whatever it is. And when you get scope creep, and if you want to accept those extra tasks, I want you to offer the adjustment to the timeline, because if scope creep continues to happen, it's going to push your time back for every bit of task that's added to your plate. And the client has to understand that. Okay. So at the end, you might be late for your delivery. And if you don't push that timeline back, your client's going to be like, well, why is your delivery so late? Oh, remember a month ago, you added these 5 tasks to my plate? You know, it's amazing. Sometimes clients tend to forget about things like that. And also another big thing is clients don't also pay attention to the scope of the work. You're the one that knows about it. You have to clearly communicate it to them. They're much more higher level than you. You're the one in the weeds doing the project. These guys, usually the CEOs that hire you, they're off doing a million things. Okay. They don't know the nuances of everything in the contract. So you got to clearly communicate that to them. And I want you to be very clear about this. Keep all communications in writing. So I get it, Mike, I'm on meetings with them. It's not in writing. Always have an AI note taker. I use Fathom. There's Read AI. There's a lot of Fathom note taker is great. It puts not only does it record your entire meeting, but it also segments, it transcribes everything and then segments everything into action items. So everything does become into writing, even if it's like a verbal, like Zoom call or something that you're having with your client. Okay. Great question about scope creep. Thank you, Isabella. Let's take one more question here. I've got so many questions here. We can save some of these for next week. Mia, thank you for the question. And I know I've seen you in the chat room and I'm every week, and you're probably in there now. I'm going to save your question for next week. You know what? No, that's not fair for me. I'm going to write you and answer this question about improving freelance branding, because I just don't have time to go into it right now. It's a big answer. Okay. So I will write you. Okay. It's tax time or just past tax time. Some of you are still filing your taxes. So I'm going to answer Charlotte's question about taxes. What are the best ways to handle freelance taxes? And I've got a little tip for you. But let me give you the basics first. I want you to keep detailed records of income and expenses. That's a no-brainer, right? And that if you do that, you're 90%. You're in the top 10% of what freelancers, 90% of them don't do this. I want you to keep detailed records. And this is pretty easy. Anytime you use your credit card or run your credit card, I want you to just write down what that was for on a spreadsheet. It's very, very simple. You just write down what it was for and the amount it was for. That's it. Income and expenses. I do this daily for the income. I just log in my bank account. I see all the money that came in, and then I look at my credit card statement. I see the money that came out, It's just a daily habit. It takes 5 minutes. Okay. And I want you to set aside a portion of your earnings. This is the tip I was talking about. Every single day, this is what I do, and you should do this too. You look at all your deposits for the day, and I want you to multiply it times 0.35. So if you have $10,000 deposit, you go into Excel, you do equals $10,000 times 0.35. I want you to take that number, which is $3,500 in this case, and I want you to put it into your savings account. And I want you to do that transfer. And in the memo, that transfer, you put taxes. That way, every single time you get a deposit, you're putting away 35% for taxes, which is overkill because as a freelancer, you'll be able to write that stuff off. You won't be paying 35%. You'll have money left over. But at least it doesn't leave you with a big tax bill going, how the hell am I going to come up with this money? All right. So every deposit, every day you should do this with all your deposits. And it's okay if you want to do it weekly or something. Just go through all your deposits for the week. It's what I do. I've been doing it for years. Super easy. Takes me 35 seconds every day. And now I know when tax time comes that I will not be surprised because I won't be paying more than 35% taxes. Won't even be paying more than 20%, but I want to keep a little bit of extra savings in there in case, every now and then you need some money. Okay. Obviously, another tip for handling freelance taxes is use accounting software for tracking, like QuickBooks. It's a few dollars a month. And I keep using QuickBooks. Hey, guys, I'm not a fan of QuickBooks any more than I am any other. I just use it because my bookkeeper wants me to use it. Okay. I even particularly don't even like it. I think their customer services are atrocious. But for some reason, it's kind of like the 800-pound gorilla in the industry and everybody uses it. So when you have a CPA or an accountant that wants to use a particular tool, you tend to get pushed into that. So, but nonetheless, QuickBooks is what I use. And you can use any accounting software. Just make sure you use something. Okay. I want you to have a tax professional. If you need a good DPA or a tax pro, a referral, let me know. I've got a good tax person, but there are a lot of them out there. There's no shortage of tax experts. Just make sure you have a good one. And shout out to Upwork. You can go to Upwork and check out tax professionals and make sure you hire ones that have good reviews, over 90% rating. Okay. Another tip, if you really want to get into taxes, which I don't really do this, but stay up on tax laws and deadlines. I do subscribe to a newsletter that kind of gives the updates and stuff for entrepreneurs, tax updates. But don't get too in the weeds of this. If you have someone like a CPA on your team or a bookkeeper on their team, they're going to do that for you. Okay. I believe that's all the time I have for today. Thank you very much for all your live questions and your questions that you had for me via my website. Again, if you want, go ahead and write to my website, mikevulcan.com, and I'll read your question live on air during my next open office hour.